The air in Ban Vinai was never truly still. It was heavy, thick with the scent of charcoal smoke, dried peppers, and the breath of 30,000 people packed into a space meant for far fewer. Sam here, and today, we're stepping into a story that feels like it's being whispered through the cracks of a bamboo wall.
It's a haunting landscape, Sam. Ban Vinai wasn't just a refugee camp in Thailand. It was a liminal space, a place where the past was lost and the future was a giant question mark. For a child like Yahshao, it was a world of profound unfairness.
But wait, Alex, before we get into the heavy stuff, we have to talk about the king aspect. Our narrator, Yahshao, doesn't just see himself as a witness. He claims a much higher mantle. He says he is here to judge. That's a bold statement for a kid in a camp.
It really is, Sasha. And the story begins in the most dramatic way possible, with fire. Imagine an apartment block in the camp suddenly engulfed in flames. The chaos, the screaming, and then the eerie silence of the aftermath.
Exactly. Yahshao and his friend didn't run away from the ruins. They ran toward them. They were looking for coins, anything of value left in the ashes. It sounds desperate, but in Ban Vinai, desperation was the daily bread.
I mean, searching through a burned-out home for coins feels a bit morbid, doesn't it? Like they're scavenging off someone else's tragedy. But then again, when you have nothing, a single coin is a fortune.
And that's when it happened. In the grey soot and charred remains, Yashao's fingers brushed against something cold and round. He pulled it out, and it wasn't just any coin. It was a coin with the face of the Buddha on it.
A Buddha coin in that context is more than currency, Sam. It's a talisman. It represents protection, merit, and a connection to the divine. For a young boy to find that in the ashes of a fire, it must have felt like a sign.
A sign of what, though? Luck or something more ominous? Because the moment he shows it to someone else, the whole energy of the story shifts from a treasure hunt to a lesson in betrayal.
Right, Sasha. They're walking home, and they run into an older brother, likely a relative or a close family friend. Yahshao, with that childhood innocence, shows him the prize. He holds out this sacred Buddha coin, and the brother takes it to look at it.
This is the moment where the unfairness Yahshao mentions really bites. The brother puts the coin in his pocket. When Yahshao asks for it back, the brother reaches in, but his hand performs a cruel piece of magic. He pulls out a common 5 baht coin and hands it back instead.
That's just low. Stealing from a child is one thing, but swapping a sacred object for a common coin? It's a double betrayal. And Yahshao is just a kid. He can't fight back against an adult.
He felt powerless, Alex. He says he could do nothing. But here's where the story takes a turn into the supernatural. Yahshao mentions a dream. 2 men dressed in white walking side by side with him. They tell him, "When your time is up, we will meet you here."
Those figures in white are fascinating, Sam. In many Southeast Asian traditions, white clothing signifies purity or a connection to the celestial realms. It's as if Yahshao was being told that while he suffered in the physical world, he was being watched and protected by another layer of life.
It sounds like a coping mechanism, honestly. When the world is unfair, you dream of powerful allies who recognize your true worth. But then we get to the part that makes your skin crawl, the karma part.
Fast forward a couple of months. The brother who stole the coin is at home. His own brother brings home a bird. It's supposed to be a moment of interest, maybe a pet or a curiosity. But the bird does something unthinkable.
It's a scene straight out of a gothic horror story. The bird lashes out and pecks the eye of the brother's baby. Just like that, a life is changed forever. The family is devastated, and they have no idea why this tragedy struck.
Wait, are we really saying the baby lost an eye because the father stole a coin? That feels incredibly harsh, Alex. I mean, why the baby? Why not the man who actually committed the theft?
That's the question Sasha always asks, isn't it? But what about the innocence that's factor? In Yahshao's worldview, though, this is the cost of the stolen Buddha coin. He sees the threads of karma connecting these events, even if the family is blind to them.
It's a concept of collective family karma, which is very prevalent in many cultures. The actions of the head of the household ripple out and affect the most vulnerable. It's a terrifying way to view the world, but it enforces a strict moral code.
But it makes Yahshao sound almost cold, doesn't it? He says, "I, as Yahshao the king, I here to judge." He's looking at this tragedy not with pity, but as a confirmation of his own spiritual authority. That's a lot for a listener to swallow.
It is, Sasha. It's a transformation. He starts as a victim of a theft in a refugee camp and ends as a figure of judgment. He claims to connect to other layers of life. Let's dive deeper into what life in Ban Vinai was actually like to understand how someone develops that perspective.
Ban Vinai was established in 1975, mainly for Hmong refugees fleeing Laos. It was meant to be temporary, but for many, it became a permanent state of existence. You had people who were warriors and farmers suddenly penned in by barbed wire.
And when you take away a person's agency, when you take away their ability to provide or protect, you get these internal power struggles. The brother stealing the coin, maybe that was his way of asserting dominance in a place where he felt small.
That's a great point, Sam. The theft wasn't just about the coin's value, it was about the hierarchy. But Yahshao's reaction is what's unique. He doesn't hold a grudge. He says he forgives them all. But he also knows the truth.
Forgiveness with a side of "I told you so" from the universe. It's a complex emotional state. He's not seeking revenge himself. He's watching the universe exact it for him. It's a way of reclaiming power without ever lifting a finger.
I still struggle with the bird, Alex. A bird pecking out a baby's eye. It's so specific. It's so visceral. Is it possible it was just a freak accident that Yahshao's mind linked to the coin because he needed a reason for his own pain to matter?
That's the skeptic's view, Sasha, and it's valid. But in the world of tales, the narrative arc is what matters. The setup was the fire. The rising tension was the theft. And the climax was that horrific moment with the bird.
Think about the symbolism of the eye, too. The brother looked at the Buddha coin and saw something to steal. He used his eyes for greed. Then, the most precious thing in his life loses an eye. It's a literal eye for an eye logic.
Okay, I see the poetic justice there, but it's dark. It makes the world feel like a place where every mistake is watched by something unforgiving. Those two men in white from the dream, were they guardians or were they bailiffs?
Maybe they were both, Sam. They told him to go and that they would meet him when his time is up. It suggests that Yahshao's life in the camp is just a temporary assignment, a period of testing before he returns to a higher state.
It reminds me of the idea of the hidden king, a common trope in mythology where a ruler is living in exile, disguised as a commoner or even a beggar, just waiting for the right time to reveal their true nature.
So Yahshao is the hidden king of Ban Vinai, watching the people around him, seeing who is greedy and who is kind, and letting the layers of life sort out the consequences. It's a heavy burden for a child to carry.
He mentions experiencing a lot of unfair life, which I think he means unfair life. He saw his own family do things they weren't supposed to do. The camp environment can break a person's moral compass, right?
Absolutely, Alex. When you're living in a state of constant scarcity, the self becomes the priority, survival at any cost. To maintain your integrity in that environment, you almost have to believe you are something more than just a refugee.
It's like he's built a fortress in his mind. You can take my coin, you can treat me like a child, but I'm Yahshao, and I know who I am. It's a profound psychological defense against the trauma of the camp.
Let's talk about the fire again. Sam, you mentioned the coins in the ashes. Finding a coin with a Buddha face, that's not something you'd find in everyday Thai currency usually. It sounds like a fra crew or a buried amulet.
Exactly, Alex. People often buried their valuables or sacred amulets under their homes for protection or to keep them safe from thieves. When the house burned down, the protection was exposed. For Yahshao to find it was like inheriting a spirit.
And the brother didn't just steal money, he stole a spirit. That explains why the retribution was so severe in Yahshao's eyes. You don't mess with the Buddha, and you don't mess with a child who has the favor of the men in white.
It's interesting how he uses the name Yahshao. It sounds phonetically similar to Yeshua or Joshua, names often associated with leadership or salvation. Whether that's intentional or just a name, it adds to that king persona he adopts.
The way he narrates it is so detached, too. He's not crying about the coin anymore. He's observing the karma. He says, I see people get their karma. It's like he's watching a movie where he already knows the ending.
But what does it do to a person to live like that? To look at a baby's tragedy and think, that's the price of my coin. Does it make you a king, or does it just make you incredibly lonely?
That's the duality of the story, Sasha. It's both a story of spiritual empowerment and a story of the deep, isolating trauma of the camps. You survive by believing in a higher justice because the earthly justice is nowhere to be found.
Think about the Thai authorities or the camp administration. For a kid like Yahshao, they weren't the ones providing justice. The brother who stole the coin probably faced zero consequences from the camp elders. So the mind looks to the birds. It looks to the dreams.
It's a form of radical acceptance, too. He says, I forgive them all. He's not carrying the anger, he's just carrying the knowledge. But man, that bird, I can't get that image out of my head. Why a bird?
Birds are often seen as messengers between worlds, Sam. In many cultures, they are the eyes of the gods. If the brother stole a coin with a face on it, a Buddha's face, then a bird taking an eye is a very direct, very symbolic response.
And the fact that the brother brought the bird home himself. He invited the instrument of his own tragedy into his house. That's a classic element of these kinds of tales. The karmic debt is delivered by your own hand.
It's like the universe is saying, you wanted to bring something new into your home? Here, have this. It's terrifying. It makes you want to be very, very careful about what you take from others.
Yahshao's story is a reminder that in places like Ban Vinai, where physical walls hem you in, the spiritual world becomes vast. When you are stripped of your dignity, your identity as a king or a judge is the only thing they can't take away.
It's a survival strategy, Alex, but it's also a testament to the human spirit's need for order. We cannot live in a world that is purely chaotic and unfair. We will find or create a system of justice, even if it involves birds and dreams.
I wonder where Yahshao is now. Does he still see himself as the judge? Does he still see the men in white? Or was that just the reality of the camp, a phase of life that ended when the gates finally opened?
He says, when your time is up, we will meet you here. That sounds like a lifelong appointment, Sasha. The here might not be Ban Vinai anymore, but that other layer of life he mentioned.
It's a haunting thought, that we are all being judged not by the laws of our land, but by the weight of the coins we steal and the innocence we betray. Yahshao isn't just telling a story about a coin, he's giving us a warning.
A warning that the eyes of the Buddha are always watching, even in the middle of a burned-out refugee camp. And that justice might not come from a court, but from the sky.
Let's break down that scene with the brother one more time. The sleight of hand. It's such a small, petty act. A 5-baht coin. At the time, that was what, maybe 20 cents? To trade your integrity and your child's safety for 20 cents.
But to the brother, wasn't 20 cents, it was a win. In a place where you lose every day, you lost your country, your home, your status. Stealing a lucky coin from a kid is a way to feel like a winner for 5 minutes.
And that's the tragedy of the refugee experience, isn't it? It turns people against each other. It makes the brother see the brother as an opponent. Yahshao's forgiveness is actually a very high-level response to that trauma.
He chose not to participate in the cycle of pettiness. By identifying as a king, he rose above the camp's mud. He decided that he wasn't a victim of the brother. He was a witness to the brother's downfall.
It's a complete shift in perspective. Instead of, why did this happen to me? It's, I know why this is happening to you. It's a very powerful, albeit lonely, place to stand.
I'm still thinking about those two men in white. Are they ancestors? Are they angels? In Hmong culture, the connection to ancestors is incredibly strong. Maybe they were the ones who led him to the coin in the first place.
That would make sense, Alex. They gave him a gift to test the people around him. The coin was a litmus test for the heart. And the brother failed. The family failed.
And Yahshao passed. He didn't fight, he didn't scream, he didn't hate. He just observed. He knew whom he was. That phrase is so key. In a place where the world tells you you are a refugee, a person without a place, he knew he was a king.
It's a story about the stories we tell ourselves to survive. But in this case, the story had teeth. The story had a bird that could strike. It makes the boundary between metaphor and reality very thin.
That's the essence of these tales we explore, Sam. The moment where the mundane reality of a place like Ban Vinai cracks open to reveal something ancient and terrifyingly just.
The smoke of the fire, the shine of the Buddha, the white robes of the dreamers, and the sharp beak of the bird. They're all part of the same tapestry. Yahshao is just the one holding the threads.
It's a lot to process. I don't think I'll look at a coin the same way again. Or a bird, for that matter. There's a weight to things that we usually ignore.
And that's exactly what Yahshao wants us to feel. He's not just sharing a memory, he's performing his role as a judge. He's showing us the balance sheet of a life lived in the shadows of Ban Vinai.
As we wrap up this journey into the camp, I'm struck by that final line, "I here to judge." It's not a threat, it's a statement of fact. In a world of unfair life, someone has to keep the score.
Maybe we all have a bit of Yahshao in us, that part that watches the unfairness and waits for the layers of life to respond. But I hope my lessons are a little less painful than the one the brother learned.
We can only hope, Sasha. But as Yahshao shows us, the coin you find in the ashes might just be the most expensive thing you ever hold. Thanks for joining us in the dust and dreams of Ban Vinai.
It's been a heavy one, but a necessary one. The stories from the camps aren't just about suffering. They're about the strange, supernatural ways people find to reclaim their power.
And the next time you see someone dressed in white or a bird landing a little too close, maybe just take a second to think about the coins in your pocket. You never know who's judging.
Let's talk more about the environment of Ban Vinai itself, because I think it's crucial to why this story feels so visceral. Alex, you've studied these types of camps. It wasn't just a place to stay. It was an entire ecosystem of its own, right?
Exactly, Sam. It was a city of bamboo and thatch. At its peak, it was the second or third largest city in that part of Thailand, yet it didn't officially exist on any map as a town. It was a temporary settlement that lasted for nearly 20 years.
And in that kind of density, everyone knows everyone's business. If someone finds a coin in a fire, the news travels through the camp faster than the fire itself did. That makes the brothers' theft even more public, even if it was done quietly in a pocket.
That's a great point, Sasha. The social pressure must have been immense. And for Yahshao to say he forgives them, that's not just a personal spiritual choice. That's a social stance. He's refusing to be part of the camp's internal strife.
It's also about the Hmong concept of soul or plig. When something is stolen, it's not just the object that's gone, it's the harmony of the spirit. By stealing that Buddha coin, the brother didn't just take metal, he fractured the spiritual peace of the community.
Which brings us back to the bird. If the spiritual harmony is fractured, something has to pay to restore the balance. In these traditional narratives, the payment is often physical and sudden. It's like a snapback of a rubber band.
I'm curious about the two men in white again. Yahshao says they walk side by side with him. This isn't a distant vision. It's a constant presence. It's as if he's living in two worlds simultaneously, the dusty camp and this white, pristine realm.
That's a hallmark of certain spiritual experiences. The real world becomes a shadow, and the spiritual world that becomes the true reality. If you believe you are walking with celestial beings, then a man stealing your coin is like an ant stealing a crumb. It's beneath you.
But an ant stealing a crumb doesn't usually result in a baby losing an eye. That's the part where the celestial feels a bit more like Old Testament justice. It's very eye for an eye, very literal.
Maybe that's why he calls himself a king and a judge. A judge doesn't always like the sentence, but they acknowledge it's the law. Yahshao isn't the one who sent the bird, but he's the one who understands the law that sent it.
There's a certain stoicism in that. He's not celebrating the baby's injury. He's just observing the inevitable outcome of a spiritual crime. It's a very heavy perspective for a child to hold, but maybe it was the only way to make sense of a world where his family and friends were doing things they were not supposed to do.
Think about the pressure on these families. They've lost everything. Sometimes the moral compass is the first thing to go when you're hungry or scared. Yahshao seems to have kept his, but at the cost of seeing the world as a very dangerous, albeit just, place.
And the fires were common in these camps because of the building materials. But finding a Buddha coin in the ashes? That's the inciting incident of a legend. It's the moment the ordinary becomes extraordinary.
It's the sword in the stone moment for a refugee kid. But instead of pulling a sword from a rock, he pulls a face from the fire. And instead of a kingdom, he gets a burden of judgment.
It's a fascinating, if haunting, glimpse into a life we rarely hear about. Ban Vinai is gone now, closed in the early 90s, but the stories and the karma, they clearly live on in the people who are there.
Yahshao's voice is a reminder that no matter how small or forgotten a place might seem, the other layers of life are always there, watching, waiting, and in their own way, judging.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the smoke of a campfire to the white-clad figures of a dream. It's a story that stays with you like the weight of a coin in your pocket.
It really does. It makes you wonder what else is hidden in the ashes of history, and what costs are still being paid today for the things we take when we think no one is looking.
Well said, Sasha. And with that, we'll leave the story of Yahshao, the king of Ban Vinai, right there. Between the physical world and the layers of life, we're only just beginning to understand.
Until next time, keep your eyes open and your heart clear. You never know what a single coin might be worth in the long run.
And maybe stay away from birds if you've got a guilty conscience. Just a thought.
I think we should talk a bit more about the brother who took the coin. You know, in many of these stories, the person who does the wrong thing isn't necessarily a villain in their own mind. He probably thought he was just being smart.
Right, Sam. He probably told himself, the kid doesn't need this. I can use it to buy something for the family. He justified it. But in the realm of karma, justification doesn't change the nature of the act.
And that's the scary part, isn't it? We all justify things. We all have our 5-baht coins that we swap for something more valuable. But Yahshao's story suggests that the universe doesn't care about our excuses.
It's a very binary view of morality. There's the right thing and the not supposed to do things. And Yahshao, even as a kid, seemed to have this very clear line in his head.
I wonder if that clarity came from the dream. If you've walked with men in white, the petty thefts of the camp must seem so transparent. You see the why behind everything.
But it's also about the unfair, the unfairness. He saw his own family doing things. That's a deep kind of hurt, when the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones breaking the rules.
Exactly. And he says he forgives them. That's the only way to survive that kind of disappointment, isn't it? To let it go so it doesn't rot you from the inside.
But forgiveness doesn't mean the consequences disappear. That's the key distinction. He forgave, but the bird still came. The karma is independent of his personal feelings.
That's a chilling thought. Even if the victim forgives you, the universe might not. The debt is still on the books.
It makes the world feel very ordered, doesn't it? No matter how chaotic it looks on the surface, like a crowded refugee camp, there's an underlying structure that's perfectly balanced.
And Yahshao is the one who can see that structure. He's like a mathematician of the soul, watching the equations balance themselves out in real time.
I'm still hung up on the baby, though. I can't help it. It's the challenger in me. If the brother is the one who sinned, why is the baby the one who pays? It feels like the opposite of justice.
In many ancient traditions, the self isn't just the individual, it's the lineage. The baby is an extension of the father. To hurt the father, you hurt what he loves most. It's a brutal logic, but it's one that's existed for millennia.
It's also about the cost Yahshao mentioned. The family didn't know the cost of the baby's eye. They saw it as a tragedy, an accident. But Yahshao saw it as a transaction.
It makes you wonder how many accidents in our own lives are actually transactions we don't understand. It's a paranoid way to live, but it definitely keeps you on the straight and narrow.
That's the power of these tales. They're not just stories, they're frameworks for understanding the unexplainable. In Ban Vinai, where so much was out of your control, this framework gave you a sense of agency.
And Yahshao, by claiming the title of king and judge, isn't just surviving. He's ruling. He's ruling his own internal world where justice is absolute.
It's a fascinating psychological profile. A child in a camp who becomes a king in his mind to cope with the unfairness of his reality. And then the reality seems to back him up with a bird and a dream.
It's a story that challenges us to look at our own coins and our own brothers. Are we the ones stealing? Or are we the ones walking with the men in white?
Or are we the ones looking for coins in the ashes? We're all probably a bit of all of them at different times.
Well, I'm definitely going to be more careful around birds from now on. That's my main takeaway.
Fair enough, Sasha. And on that note, we'll close the book on the scare in Thailand, a story of fire, coins, and the silent judgment of a boy who knew who he was.
Thank you for listening. Remember, the layers of life are always there, even when you can't see them.
And the Buddha's face might be looking back at you from the most unexpected places. Take care out there.
Actually, before we go, I just had one more thought. Yahshao mentions that he always knows whom he is. That's such a definitive statement. Most of us spend our whole lives trying to figure that out.
That's the strength of his narrative, Sam. In a place designed to strip you of your identity, where you're just a number in a camp, knowing exactly who you are is the ultimate act of rebellion.
It's like he's saying his identity isn't tied to his circumstances. He's not a refugee who found a coin. He's a king who was briefly in a camp. That shift in the subject of the sentence changes everything.
It's a lesson in sovereignty. We might not be in Ban Vinai, but we all have our camps, situations that try to define us by our limitations. Yahshao's story is a call to look past the barbed wire.
And to listen to the dreams. The two men in white weren't just a fantasy. They were his connection to his true self. They told him go, and he went. He followed the path, even when it led through the ashes.
It's a powerful way to end, a reminder that our time here is just a temporary stay, and there are those waiting for us when our time is up.
So keep walking side by side with your own truth. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that you're the king of your own story too.
Good night, everyone, and stay safe.
Good night, and watch out for the birds.
Wait, I just realized something. The 5 baht coin. In Thailand, the 5 baht coin actually has a temple on the back. Wat Bencham above it. It's also religious, but it's common. The Buddha coin was unique. The brother traded a unique blessing for a common one.
That adds another layer, doesn't it? He traded the extraordinary for the ordinary. He chose the currency of the world over the currency of the spirit. That's a mistake we make every day.
Wow, Alex, that really puts a fine point on it. We trade our Buddha coins for 5 baht coins all the time because the 5 baht coin is easier to spend, but the cost is always higher than we think.
And with that final reflection, we really are done. A story that started with a scare in Thailand and ended with a lesson for us all.
Thanks for sticking with us through the long haul on this one. It was worth it.
Absolutely. See you next time.